Hi, Rick. This is exciting.
Leah, it's nice to have you interview me.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So, this is Richard J. Johnson, author of The Princess and the Rogue novel series. And we're going to interview him today, find out about the book and the characters and a little bit more about his life.
Thank you.
So, Rick, I wanted to start out. I'd love you to share about a little bit about yourself and who you are as an author.
Well, first, I'm a physician. I work at the University of Colorado. I've been do a lot of research, and I've written books on sugar. But I've always wanted to write a novel, and I'm a little bit of an adventurer. And so I had these experiences when I was traveling in the Mideast, and it led to this series.
That's awesome. And could you expand a little bit more? I'd love to hear more about where the idea for these novels came from.
Well, I've gone to Egypt a number of times related to my work, and I met a wonderful gentleman there named Tarek, and he and I became friends. We spent a lot of time going camping and hiking in the desert and in the various areas, kind of remote areas in Egypt, and we spent some time in the Sinai camping, and we met up with some Bedouins that were living up in the mountains, and we had an evening there where we were taking up this old road into this little glen surrounded by cliffs and mountains, and it was nighttime. It was quite. We had little fires, and the Bedouins were making cooking dinner and for us, and it was quite an adventurous evening. And there was a young boy who sort of looked like Aladdin. Actually, he was very handsome, and he was cooking this chicken tahini dish for us over the fire. And I decided to bring some rocks to put around the fireplace, and they told me no. Of course, I couldn't speak Arabic, but they said no. We'll put the rocks around the fire. And I go, why is that? And then they told me that there was these scorpions out there that would live under the rocks and that could sting me. And but then they started doing it, and I said, well, if you can do it without getting stung, I can do it without getting stung. And but then they said, no, we're immune. And they started telling me these stories about how when a baby's born, that they go and they find some of these scorpions, they kill them, they crush them up, and they bake it on a griddle where they bake it to a fine powder, and then they put the powder on the nipple of the mother's breast. The baby suckles through that and becomes immune to the scorpion. So they were telling me these stories, and they told me the story about a thing called a basha, where if one of the Bedouins is accused of stealing, they put a knife in the fire and they heat it up and they put it up against your tongue to see if you're lying or not. I said, well, what is this all about? And they said, well, if you're not lying, you'll be confident and your mouth will still be wet and it won't burn. And I just think to myself, there's no way that would work for me. I'd be scared even if I was innocent. And so I heard all these stories, and we did these travels through various canyons and so forth. And I came back to the U.S. and I started writing about these stories and sending them to my friends over in Egypt. And they go, wow, you make it sound very adventuresome and beautiful. And so that gave me the idea to write this novel. And it's all about real places. It's about real legends, real myths, stories, and many of them I had little adventures related to them. Like there's this canyon called the Colored Canyon. It's a beautiful canyon. You go into it, and it's a slot canyon where occasionally they have flash floods. And I went there with this guy who thought that he was the luckiest person in the world, and he kept talking about how lucky he was, and how he was a sharif, where he was given this luck. And we're wandering down the slot canyon. He finds a full bottle of water in the middle of this place, and I thought, he really is lucky, And so he became one of my characters.
Very, very cool. Well, as you know, but they might not know, I'm actually a contributing author, and I started working with you a couple years ago to kind of tighten up the novel and get it ready for print. But can you tell us how long it actually took you to get to even that point, and now a couple years later to publishing?
Well, it began by just writing all these stories down and then trying to link them together with an adventure. And the adventure started to shape up more and more, where the characters became the driving force. And, it took years. And it was always enjoyable, but it really became, went into an earnest attempt to turn it into a novel once I met Julia, and also Zach Thrun, who's one of our artists, and Jay Tomlinson, who's another artist. And then as a team, we worked together to really refine it, turn it into a kind of a beautiful story. And so I thank you, Leah, for doing all that, helping me, with this kind of fun story.
Well, it's absolutely been a pleasure working with you, and over the course of this adventure together, I feel like I have just fallen in love with these characters. I've fallen in love with the stories. I find that I have such a huge connection to this story, and the way you write it really does connect it with the authors. And I want to ask you, what is it that you want the readers to take away from this book? How do you want them to feel? What would you like them to learn? I know for me, I really get a sense of friendship and loyalty, brotherhood, and beating the odds against these forces. And I think it's a real parallel to the real world. But how do you want your readers to interpret this story?
Excuse me. Well, it's an adventure story, and it's filled with mysteries and adventures and challenges. And so first and foremost, it's really just an exciting story, and it is about camaraderie and friendship and working together. There is a kind of an underlying message, though. There's a message for the reader to believe in oneself, and to not give up, and to always have hope. And there are a lot of times when the hero or the heroine are in kind of dark times and troubled situations, and sometimes it looks hopeless, but there's always a solution. There's always a way out, and they always find it. And so it is about working together, camaraderie. There's a little bit of fantasy adventure. There's some legends and myths that are brought in, Egyptian myths and Persian legends, Tibetan myths. They're all in there. So it's kind of weaved with these historical places, some true history, a little bit of mythology to create an adventure story.
Absolutely. One of the most magical parts of these books are the characters. The way you write the characters is beautiful. You really connect with them. You want to be these characters. The underlying friendship and even budding love story is between the Princess Lee and Aramis, the street thief, the honest thief, as it were. And for me, I really identify with the Lee character because she grows up a lot during this novel, and she just has a wild, imaginative spirit, and she is loyal to the core. But she won't take any grief from anybody. She is a straight shooter, and I just love that about her. What characters do you most identify with?
Well, I like all the characters, actually, and I have to also thank you because you really did enhance the Lee character tremendously, and I really appreciate that. I probably like Aramis the most, and he's sort of the lead adventurer. But all the characters get to play an important role, and each one has something about them that makes them interesting.
Absolutely. I love all the smaller characters. I have to say that Abdullah is so funny and so wise, and really does bring out a lot of that comedic relief that sometimes when things are getting tense in the novel, he comes in and he really kind of makes you chuckle. And then, of course, when the story is a bit more complete, they form this beautiful brotherhood of friends that just trust and love each other, and that really is the crux of the story. So this is your first fiction novel. You've written other more medically based, scientific based novels. How was your experience with writing your first novel, and do you plan to do more?
Well, novels are just a great way to tap into one's creativity and one's imagination, and I think that it's tremendously fun. And I hope to write more novels, and maybe if this is successful, we'll continue this as a series.
Absolutely.
And it really has been fun working with you and with
Likewise.
Zach and Jay. The artwork in this book is really quite amazing. There's two artists, and Zach Thrun has really added a lot of illustrations that really enhance the book. So I'm hoping to do more, because it's really enjoyable.
Absolutely. And I know we've spoken about so many possibilities for expanding the story. So you, the readers, will just have to wait and see and figure out what our next move is. Just to close this out, I'd like to ask you, what are kind of your big hopes for this novel series here at the launch of this book?
Well, it's my big
Books.
hope that people enjoy it, and that those who read it, if they really enjoy it, to tell their friends about it, and to get feedback on the book would be great. It is an adventure story, and I'd like to do more, and I already have other ideas, and it would be fun to join forces again.
Absolutely.
So
I have two young girls, and through this process, they have enjoyed hearing a lot about the story, and now that it's ready to go, my 8-year-old is reading it and just loving it. And so I want to dedicate my portion of this to my girls. Who did you write these books?
So I have two children. I have a 10-year-old Ricky and a 12-year-old Tracy, and both of them really like adventure stories, and they've been reading this and enjoying it. And so I'm hoping to do more, because it is fun to see your children enjoying books like this.
Certainly. We have also had a really great team of support around us, and we'd love to send a shout out to them. Nate Greenlee is helping us a lot with the marketing and website and business end of this stuff. And then we've had a lot of people who've read the book and contributed. Do you want to name?
Oh
people?
yeah, no, there's quite a few people who've helped and read it and give us suggestions. Marty Layton, Hannah Paulson,